Well, it's done for now in Missouri. It's not officially over, but it is done for now. There will be no legislation passed in the Missouri House or the Missouri Senate, which means it will not go to Governor Mike Kehoe's desk for the Royals and the Chiefs to potentially tap into upwards of $25 million each from the state of Missouri. Does this mean that the Chiefs and the Royals are running over to Kansas? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. If they were going to run over to Kansas, I believe they would have done it a long time ago. They want to make this work in Missouri. Now, Missouri, of course, can't get out of its own way. Missouri likes to, blow off one toe at a time as it goes through this process. That is from Kansas City to Jackson County to the state legislature in Jefferson City. They're all guilty of screwing this thing up one way or another. But these teams, I don't believe, really want to go to Kansas. I have not believed that for a long time. They've had a star bond deal on the table. You've heard people wax poetic about how impressive these star bonds are. But for some reason, these teams haven't jumped on this offer that some insist, is just a can't-miss opportunity. Makes you wonder why. So now where are we at? Well, we're basically where we were a couple of weeks ago, which is the Chiefs and the Royals trying to figure out how they can get some kind of funding mechanism from taxpayers, whether that's the city of Kansas City, Missouri, whether that's Clay County in the Royals case, whether it's Jackson County, and, of course, whether or not it's the state of Missouri. This whole thing that developed over the last few days was a surprise to a lot of people. Now, I believe behind the scenes, from what I understand, Mike Kehoe and leadership in the House and the Senate basically wanted to get this thing done late in the session, move it through, and basically have it surprise everybody. And they almost pulled it off. But they couldn't pull it off. Why? Because of infighting. As I told you yesterday and reported yesterday here on KCMO, basically the Missouri Senate did not want to pass this bill that the Missouri House passed that would have given these two sports franchises and maybe the Cardinals down the road as well upwards of $20, $25 million a year in state subsidies. Why? Because the state House would not take up a bill that the state Senate wanted passed last week that would have provided $500 million in infrastructure for projects around the state of Missouri. So basically, the Senate is saying, why are we going to pass a bill for stadium funding in Kansas City when we're sitting here trying to get $500 million in infrastructure funding for things like libraries and crime labs, and you guys can't do that for us? So the Senate basically threw its arms up and said, we're done. This is over. We are not passing stadium funding bills when you guys couldn't get done $500 million in things that matter to our constituents. Remember, listen, we all love the Chiefs, and we're here in Kansas City, and obviously this matters a lot to us. But if you're a state senator in Holt, if you're a state senator in Springfield, in Poplar Bluff, wherever, how are you going to go back to your constituents and say, yeah, I couldn't get you that library, but don't worry, the Chiefs have, $25 million a year for stadium upgrades at Arrowhead. If you're working class in rural Missouri, you don't care. You're not going to Arrowhead. Yeah, you might watch games and root on the Chiefs, but you're sitting here and saying, hey, we got a lot of problems out here in rural Missouri, and you guys totally misplaced those priorities. That's an impossible ask for these lawmakers.
And Kansas City already voted them down last year.
Exactly. Kansas City voted them down last year. So then, you're right, Mark, a lot of those voters in outstate Missouri would say, wait, why did you give the team something that even their own taxpayers didn't want to give them last April? Why? It just would have been political suicide, and it would have been the absolute wrong message to send to the constituents in other parts of Missouri. It would have looked awful, and frankly, it would not have been a good move. If they got both done, if you got the funding for all these infrastructure priorities around the state, then you could have gotten away with getting done the stadium funding, but they couldn't do it. So basically, this thing is over. There was a late push, obviously, over the last couple of days, but it's basically done. It's kaput. But this was largely put together by Mike Kehoe, the governor. So now what happens from here? Well, there could be a special session. And I would bet at this point in time, there will be a special session at some point. June is probably the timeline. Before the end of June is when they would have to do it. So my guess is a special session will come and they might try to get this done, but it's going to have to be led by Mike Kehoe, the governor. He's going to have to twist some arms. He's going to have to appease some Democrats as well in the process. And he's going to have to appease a lot of Republicans because Republicans are iffy on this whole thing too. But what's coming up here in Missouri is you've got Kit Bond's funeral coming up on Tuesday. So all these lawmakers left. They are going to be back on Tuesday. A lot of them will be back on Tuesday for Kit Bond's funeral. And the Senate's back on Thursday. They're not working. They're just kind of, putting the bow on the legislative session. That's where Mike Kehoe, the governor, may be looking at trying to lay the foundation for a special session and trying to get these folks in the Senate to come around on this idea on helping these sports teams out. So now all we've done is close a chapter on what is becoming a 1,000-page novel. And I know we've all read that book where we're like, man, this book is way longer than it needs to be, right? I mean, you've read like a 500-page book and you're like, this could easily be 200 pages. I don't do a lot of that right now because if I'm reading, it's news. I don't sit there and enjoy read these days with 3 little kids. I wish I could. I don't do it much anymore, at least not at this point in my life. It's a chapter of life. I know it will pass, and one day I'll be reading books on a front porch somewhere and saying, boy, what happened all those days and years? Seems like they were just yesterday, but right now it's not happening. But we all have read that book, and this book is much longer than it ever needed to be. It's good for shows like this, but I get it. If you're a taxpayer and if you're a voter, you're like, can't we just figure this thing out? Can't we just have a conclusion to all this? Well, the good news, if you're looking at the next deadline that matters for the Chiefs and the Royals, the next deadline is going to be the end of June. Missouri may have that special session. I believe that they will end up having that special session. And then you also will have the end of the Star Bond offer in Kansas. That technically can be extended one more year to June of 2026. I hope they don't do it, not only because I think it's a bad deal, but also because it just elongates the entire process that we're all looking to move on from, I would say. So there will be a lot of quiet on this front over the next couple of weeks, and then June is when you can potentially expect some more action and some more news stories on this. And speaking of news stories on this, I did want to share this with you real fast as we kick off the show here on a Thursday morning. Got a nice text from somebody in Kansas City media, and I just wanted to, I put it up on X and on Facebook last night, but here's what the text read. It came from a Kansas City media savant, maybe that's too strong of a word, but a Kansas City media personality sent me this text last night. Actually, it came in on Tuesday night. Props to you and Keatsman today on the stadium coverage and commentary. 810 has barely discussed it up to this point. They've spent more time discussing whether the NBA draft lottery is rigged and interviewed the new starting goalie for Sporting KC. I'm sure the Sporting goalie is a nice guy, but boy, that sounds like blow your brains out radio. The President of the United States wrapping up in the last couple of hours in Qatar with a speech that he gave to the men and women of law enforcement in that part of the world. And it was a speech that was, boy, what a contrast from the last guy, right?
Come on, man.
Yeah. What a contrast from the last guy for Trump to get up there. First off, be coherent, know where he is, not a very high bar to clear, and then just have that American pride and enthusiasm that was so desperately lacking during the last 4 years in this country. And Trump said something about military enrollment, as I was watching parts of the speech this morning, that stood out to me, and I wanted to hear from you. Obviously, we have a strong military community here around Kansas City, on whether or not you are hearing that, whether you are enrolled, have been enrolled, have friends and family who are enrolled, if this is what you're hearing on the ground as well. Here's what the President of the United States had to say in Qatar this morning.
My trip is 4.5 days, but this is the one I was so looking forward because I'm with the people that I really love and respect. We love and respect you. This is what you're doing, the service you do for your country. You keep us safe. There is no more important profession. And I was so proud to see those reports coming in just a few days ago saying that the enrollment is at the highest level ever, especially when I had to suffer running against a group of people that were very inappropriate, where they allowed that reputation of what you stood for and what you stand for to deteriorate to a point where we weren't able to recruit. So just remember this, you have a job now that everybody wants. Everybody wants to be doing what you're doing. It's a special job.
So that was the president just in the last couple of hours giving a speech in Qatar to the men and women of law enforcement, or men and women of the military in this country who are located in that part of the world. Now, here are the numbers. I looked this up on military.com. This article is from April 21st, so it's less than a month old. The Army in particular is poised to easily hit its recruiting target this year, as the service has made enormous gains in filling the ranks ahead of its traditional summer rush of new enlistments. That would make sense. Summer rush, kids graduating high school, deciding they're going to join the military. But as of last week, so this is a month ago, the Army had enlisted 51,837 recruits, or 85% of its target for fiscal year 2025. The fiscal year ends on September 30th. So they've got 4 months, and they have to add 10,000 recruits, which is nothing based on where their trends are, in the next 4 months. And they have not even gotten to the point where, kids are graduating high school and they're saying, you know what, I'm going to enlist. I'm going to enroll. So they're going to blow these numbers out of the water. They're at 52,000. The goal for the fiscal year is 61,000. They've got 4.5 months to get there. And we have not even gotten to the busy summer season yet. The only thing you could possibly attribute this to is a renewed interest in serving this country under this commander-in-chief. Like, what else is there? You could sit there and say, well, if the economy was soft, maybe there are people who are going out there and saying, I'm going to enroll in the military because I can't find a job. Job market's still pretty strong in the private sector, right? I mean, we've had these jobs numbers come out. The last jobs numbers came out a couple of weeks ago, and they beat expectations. So it's not like we're sitting here in some kind of recession where no one can find a job and they're like, well, I guess I'll go join the Army. That is not happening. I'm getting a renewed sense of American pride that we are living through right now, especially after what the last 4 years brought. 913-408-7957. But I do want to hear from you on this, whether it's, kids, friends, family who are enlisted or are about to enlist. If that's the sentiment that appears to be out there, 913-408-7957. Will's in Kansas City. Hey, Will, you're on KCMO. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Pete. My son leaves for basic training next week, about a week and a half. And I have a little bit of a different angle. I think he would have went in anyway. He expressed interest like maybe around the last fall. And I don't think he was very politically conscious about what was going to happen. However, his mom and I were. We were really paying close attention to the election. I think my son would have went in anyway. Of course, the election happens in November. He signs up in December. And I just remember thinking, thank God we have a leader. Because I'm prior military, and I was pretty disgusted with what happened to our military in the last 4 years, just like you said. Mm-hmm. He would have went in anyway, but there is a sense of we're getting back to what we're supposed to be doing. There is a stronger sense of, I don't want to say patriotism, but it seems like we're going the right direction. Strong defense is a good offense. And we're finally making a military we're getting them into the shape where they could actually protect us and do some good. Where, like you said, the last 4 years that wasn't happening. It was a ridiculous mess. And now, as I said, he would have went in anyway. But the fact that I'm paying attention to what's going on makes me that much more enthusiastic for his career.
Will, when did you serve?
I got out in 1996. I've been out for a while.
Okay, 96. And
Yeah.
when he expressed interest in enlisting, did you right away say, go do it? Did you try to talk him out of it?
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean,
Okay.
it's his personality. It has a lot to do with, college wasn't really his thing. He knew he had to do something, which is kind of like the reason I went in the same place. So I understood where he was coming from.
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised because I didn't know he had even been paying attention to that kind of thing. But he knew he had to do something, and this seemed like a really good opportunity just to kind of just throw yourself out there and see what happens. Same thing with me. I had no idea where I was going to go. I had no idea what was going to happen, but I was excited for the adventure, and I think that's where his attitude is right now.
That's great, man. Well, thank you, Will, for your service, and best to your son as well as he gets set to head out there pretty soon.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate that. There you go. 913-408-7957. Now, I'm sure a bulk of the people, listen, if you're programmed and you're wired for that, like Will and his son, you're going to do it. But as Will said there, I think that's an important distinction to note. He would have done it anyway, but he feels better about his son. And his son sounds like, he's a young man. He's not super political in any way at this point. But he feels better about his son making this move and enlisting under this president than he would have under the cackler-in-chief. Which I can't imagine Will's alone in feeling that way as a parent of a kid who is about to enlist. And we still have a handful of tickets remaining to join us for the Guy Benson event as he comes to Kansas City on Thursday, June 12th, for a meet and greet dinner show. I'll be there. Keatsman will be there. We are going to have an outstanding time at Boulevard Brewing in their suite. You'll get dinner, drinks, the whole 9 yards. So it's going to be a great time, and you can buy your tickets now at KCMOTalkRadio.com. We are looking forward to that, and we're going to have a couple hundred folks out there. It's going to be a good time, and there are, not a lot of tickets left to that deal, so make sure you get in now. Now, Mayor Lucas yesterday catching some heat from his buddy Malik Jackson at Fox 4. So these two guys now have an ongoing beef, and it ties back to Malik Jackson reporting that Mayor Lucas did not get back to a business owner in the Crossroads who texted the mayor and said, hey, we're having crime issues outside of our restaurant. Malik Jackson reported on that at Fox 4. And then what happened is the mayor basically said, I never got the text. And we got into the weeds on the read receipts that showed up on the business owner's cell phone. It really got, I don't want to say down and dirty, but it went deeper than it probably ever needed to. Well, I would say that Malik Jackson is now looking forward to tweaking the mayor a little bit in his reporting. This came last night, headline, as crime rises in Kansas City, Mayor Lucas prepares for trip to Qatar. So he's just missing Trump. Trump just left Qatar this morning. Quentin Lucas is going over to Qatar, and the mayor will be here in 1 hour. I will ask him. I mean, I got a lot to talk to the guy about, but I will ask him coming up in 1 hour about this trip to Qatar. So Fox 4, to their credit, they broke it yesterday that this trip had been planned in advance, but at this point, the details of some of the funding mechanisms and whatnot are still not known. So here's what it sounded like when Malik Jackson asked the mayor about this outside of City Hall yesterday.
Could you tell us about an upcoming trip that you plan to take to Qatar?
Yep, I'll be part of a Bloomberg kind of group. It's a set of mayors and others that'll be part of all of that.
So that was Quentin Lucas yesterday to Fox 4's Malik Jackson. And you can see if you watch the video last night on Fox 4, the mayor is kind of walking up to Malik and he's got a smile on his face, and then quickly that smile turns to a frown. He was not happy about this. And here was more of the Fox 4 report.
One has to ask, at such a critical inflection point for this city, is this the appropriate time for him to travel to Qatar? Local business leaders are voicing frustration about many things going on across the city And at the same time, Mayor Quinton Lucas is preparing for an international trip to Qatar, a move that has raised eyebrows. Fox 4 asked the mayor who is paying for the trip.
This would be Bloomberg Foundation, I believe, although I'll have to make sure I get the exact details with us, but that's usually how we work this out.
Multiple sources confirmed to Fox 4 that the trip had been planned in advance, but the details about the funding have remained unclear. In a news release after Fox 4 broke the story, the mayor's office says it will not be funded by taxpayers. Sources tell Fox 4 the Qatari government is covering at least some of the costs.
So that's Fox 4's reporting last night. The mayor's going to Qatar. The taxpayer is not footing the bill. Other mayors are going to basically take a look at the World Cup because Qatar hosted the last World Cup. And, of course, we're hosting the World Cup coming up next year. Now, what we possibly could learn from Qatar, I don't know. This feels like a glamour trip and completely unnecessary. Like, what is Qatar possibly going to teach Quinton Lucas or any other mayor about how to put on the World Cup? What is it like, and why can't this be done on a Zoom call? That's the other thing I thought to myself, John.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's like I just thought if I can go on YouTube and see a guy mowing grass in Wichita this morning, then I could probably get hooked up with Qatar and some info.
Yeah, seriously. Like, why are we doing this? Now, it's fine the taxpayer's not paying for it, but still, why is this at all necessary to us putting on the World Cup next year?
Yeah, I don't think it's necessary, but if Bloomberg paid for my flight and a trip to Qatar, I'd probably take it.
Well, you might take it, but here's the question. What does it look like back home? What does it look like after, the Daily Mail runs headlines about your city last week, calling you a Mad Max hellhole where locals won't go out after 8 p.m. for you to jet set to Qatar? I agree. If they want to foot the bill, I mean, the city's going to run fine without Quinton Lucas here for a couple of days. It's not like the place is going to burn to the ground. But there are optics involved in politics, right? And that's my question to you. Do you care, or do you say, you know what, let him go. I'm fine with it. I don't need him here right now. He can take a few days off. As long as I'm not paying the bill, it's nothing off my back. 913-408-7957. That's the question for the Kansas City resident right now. Yes, the timing is bad for this to come out and for this trip to be set up based on what the narrative has been in this town, especially over the last week or so. You've got the Royals and the Chiefs in limbo. No clue what's going on there now. You do have crime in this town becoming not just a national story, but a global story when the Daily Mail is writing pieces about your city last week. So that's not a good look. You do have rampant property crime that people still feel like is wildly out of control, and that's because it is out of control. And then it's like, hey, we're going to Qatar. It's like you've got foundation problems in your home, and you're making sure you got your trip to Cabo coming up here. It's just misplaced priorities. And it's not clear to me at all what possibly could come out of it that is beneficial for Kansas City to learn how to put on a World Cup. We put on multiple Super Bowl parades in the last few years. We've hosted AFC championship games. We do the Big 12 tournament. I know that the World Cup is bigger and grander than any of this. I totally get that. It's a different beast. But can't Qatar send an email? Can't we do a Zoom call? Isn't there another way to get this done? What is the point of having to send mayors, and Quinton Lucas is not alone, mayors to the other side of the world to meet with Qatar? That's the part that I can't figure out. 913-408-7957. Pete, did they say Qatar is paying for some of the trip? Well, this was the statement sent out by the mayor's office yesterday. As has been their practice over the years, the Qatari embassy in Washington recommended the mayor's participation based on Kansas City's status as a FIFA World Cup city and is sponsoring this familiarization delegation of mayors from American cities. Mayor Lucas expects to be accompanied by 4 other U.S. mayors and a U.S. State Department local diplomat assigned to Kansas City. His name is Jeff Laudemeyer. The mayor's office consulted the U.S. State Department under both the Biden and Trump administrations prior to planning and agreeing to the travel. There will be no cost to the Kansas City taxpayers for Mayor Lucas or Mr. Laudermeyer's travel.
I can see the T-shirts now. My mayor went to Qatar, and all we got was this 747.
Oh, my gosh. That's good. That's good. I mean, I thought this was going to come on the text line, but some of you are saying that you hope the mayor makes it a long-term trip to Qatar. Maybe he loves Qatar so much, he can't come back for the day job. I don't know. I mean, some of you feel that way on the text line. I can't say I'm totally shocked by that. But I thought that might be the case for some of you. Not going to lie. 913-4087-957, the text line and the studio line. Pete, Lame Duck Lucas getting no breaks from Fox 4. Oh, boy. Lame Duck Lucas on the text line. Woo. It is true. Listen, the guy does not need to win another election here. At least not right now. Yes, Pete, they said Qatar is paying for the trip. Also, Pete, this reminds me of the mayor of Los Angeles who went to Africa as her city was set to burn down. Well, yeah, that kind of started. She should have left earlier, Karen Bass. That's what should have happened there. But either way, the optics on this are interesting, and we will talk to the mayor about this at 7:30 this morning on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio. Glad you're here on a Thursday morning. I love it, Bill. Good morning, 7:22.
We'll do it live. And thing sucks.
That's what we do every day. 4 hours. Thank you, Bill O'Reilly. Doing it live here on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM, and streaming all morning long on the KCMO Talk Radio app. Mayor Lucas will be here in 10 minutes. You got to love how the media spins some of these stories. I saw this from ABC News, and it was getting picked up by every local ABC affiliate. KMBC here in town had it as well. Headline, these prices are soaring despite cooling inflation. So now we are at a place where for 4 years, the media told us inflation wasn't happening. Then it was transitory. Then it was actually good for us, healthy. They used every excuse in the book they could for inflation. Now inflation's down for a third straight month. Inflation came in earlier this week below expectations. And what does the media do? They highlight things that have increased in price despite cooling inflation. Think about that. Think about how they covered it during 4 years of the last guy, and now inflation is down. It has come in below expectations the last couple of months, so they got to figure out how to write about this and still say, yeah, inflation's down, but here's the stuff that's actually up. Just imagine if they had an equitable approach in how they covered this guy versus the last guy. It's night and day. So inflation cooled, they write here, in the aftermath of Donald Trump's Liberation Day, dropping to a 4-year low and defying fears of tariff-driven price hikes. Even eggs, a symbol of rising costs, fell about 10% in prices in April compared to the prior month. Here's what to know about which prices are still climbing. So now it's let's highlight all the little things that actually are going up. That's what we're going to do. They have no shame. Coffee prices up 9.6% in April compared to 1 year ago, marking inflation, they write here, 4 times higher than the overall rate. Beef, a spike in beef prices also stems from a supply shortage that traces back to drought conditions. Ground beef prices soared 10% in April compared to 1 year ago, government data showed. Car repairs soared 7.6% in April compared to a year earlier, amounting to inflation 3 times higher than the overall rate. Men's and women's outerwear. Boy, we're really stretching here. Outerwear, including suits and sport coats, climbed 5.3% year over year, ending in April. Women's outerwear costs, jackets, coats, and vests surged, they write, 6.2%. Time to rein in the wives' spending on vests right now there, fellas, all right? So just take it easy on the jacket, coat, and vest spending for your better halves. That's my last bit of advice for you here.
The combination is interesting.
Yes, exactly. Notice it's not like
group things together.
Yeah, they're literally stretching this thing to the point where it's all right, this inflation number is good for Trump. What do we do? We got to find stuff that's up in prices. All right, what did we find? We got beef up because of drought. We've got coffee up as well because of supply issues. What else? Outerwear. All right, vests and jackets. We're really going deep into the weeds here, but whatever we can to make this guy look bad, we're going to do.
I guess when women's underwear is down, that's when I'm interested.
Oh, man, you can't make this up. You can't. Now, also, you have this from the Washington Post. NOAA scrambles to fill forecasting jobs as hurricane season looms. And they included a site here in Kansas as well. All right. And, of course, it's all Doge, Elon's fault. And, where's Emmanuel Cleaver screaming from the rooftops when I need him?
You mustard moo.
Some National Weather Service forecasting teams are so critically understaffed that the agency is offering to pay moving expenses for any staff willing to transfer to those offices. In 4 forecasting offices, 2 in California's Central Valley, 1 in western Kansas, and another in eastern Kentucky, the staffing is so thin that there aren't enough meteorologists to cover an overnight shift. And, of course, we've got Tom Fahey, the director of their union, saying for most of the last half century, the National Weather Service has been a 24/7 operation. Not anymore, thanks to Elon Musk, writes the Washington Post. They go on to note, an office in Goodland, Kansas needs 3 senior meteorologists, while several offices in Arkansas, Michigan, Nebraska, South Dakota, and Wyoming are seeking 2 senior meteorologists. And they note here that they have closed the overnight office in Goodland, Kansas. What if they covered the lack of law enforcement, the dearth of cops in major American cities in this country over the last half decade, like they did the overnight meteorologist in Goodland, Kansas? And by the way, I'm pretty sure if you go out and you find Farmer John out in Goodland, he'll be a fine meteorologist for you. Here it comes from the front porch. All right, they got plenty of, maybe they're not expert meteorologists, but they got good people out there that'll take great care of you. He's going for it, man. He's leaning in, hot and heavy. He's got the beard growing out. He's changed his formerly Twitter, now X profile picture. His pronouns are gone. Mayor Pete is running. Woo! That's right. Sweet Pete Buttigieg is going to be running for president in 2028. There is no doubt in my mind. Now, he's not officially announced anything, but it's going to happen. And what is another example of that? Well, first off, of course, he announced in the last, whatever that was, couple of months, he's not going to run for office in Michigan, where he just magically moved. People thought he was going to do that, maybe run for governor up there after Gretchen Whitmer. He's not doing that. And he's doing some, speaking tours. He's going around the country, and he's talking to big groups of Democratic voters. And here was Mayor Pete talking to a group, and he gets asked about criminal illegal aliens like Kilmer Abrego Garcia. This was at a town hall in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. How convenient. He's up in Iowa. Here was Mayor Pete this week.
They're saying like, oh, well, this guy, he's a criminal. The whole point is that no one person, least of all, no one politician, gets to decide that you're a criminal. Who decides? We have a process. We have laws. That's what due process is. You're not a criminal because the head of the government of the country you live in says you're a criminal.
Please double down on this, Mayor Pete. Please.
Keep going. Elaborate.
Please, more. Keep going. You're doing great. You're doing great. Come on, buddy. Let's go. I'm on board. Please double down on it. Double down on it, Mayor Pete. As Guy Benson said on X yesterday in response to this video, and Guy Benson, of course, 2 to 5 every afternoon here on KCMO Talk Radio, Fox News personality. Guy Benson had an absolutely outstanding point in response to this video. He said multiple judges determined that Garcia is a gang member. Multiple judges granted his wife's restraining orders against him because of his violent abuse. He is also unambiguously an illegal immigrant. Hope this helps, Sweet Pete. That's just great. Guy is right. And make sure you got a few tickets left. He's coming to Kansas City on June 12th. We'll be out with him, myself, Keatsman, and meet and greet, dinner, drinks, the whole thing at Boulevard. You can buy your tickets now at KCMOTalkRadio.com. But Mayor Pete's grown out the beard. He looks like Jimmy Kimmel light, a little more flamboyant version of Jimmy Kimmel, if that's at all possible. That's what he looks like now. And the beard is not just because he felt like growing a beard. It is all about the political look, the gruff look. Add a little manliness to that Sweet Pete face. That's the play here.
He's got a crush on Ted Cruz.
Or J.D. Vance, right? Oh, man. Let's go to Steven. He's in KCK. What's up, Steve?
Oh, Pete, we need to form a pact for Sweet Petey and all of AOC, and we need to encourage these potential presidential candidates to run. They won't win. They'll lose 48 states. Have you noticed that there's never anybody from Indiana who is a constituent of him that says he did a great job? This is the thing about Sweet Petey is that he was a horrible transportation. He was one of the worst secretaries ever. With the DEI and the airlines and the Ohio water issue. I mean, this guy just gets an absolute golden pass. He's like the gay Kamala. He may get the nomination until people find out that he's a complete empty suit. I mean, I'm serious. I can't believe this is going to happen.
Here's the thing, though. He is way smarter than Kamala Harris. I will say that much. I mean, listen.
Point taken, Pete.
He
you got a point there.
I know I do. That's why I made it. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. He is way smarter than Kamala Harris. Much brighter guy. Now, he's got just as much hot air coming out of him, but he is a much brighter and much more savvy politician than Kamala Harris could ever dream of being. And I guess our Pete Buttigieg clip didn't get over the air. I wondered if that was going to happen. It was only coming in one ear on my end. So what Mayor Pete said to this group in Cedar Falls or Cedar Rapids, Iowa, is no one person gets to decide that you are a criminal. That was the key line from Mayor Pete when talking about Kilmar Abrego Garcia. So that's what he said about him.
Amazing, the judicial activist resisting judicial activism.
Yeah.
How about that?
That's a good point, too. So as you sit here now and you look ahead, and I know it's a ways off, but I had to have some fun with this because when I see Pete with the beard up in Iowa thinking ahead as to, what's to come, it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait. All right? It is going to be a heck of a lot of fun.
Tim Walz was giving him lessons.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Mayor Pete, he might be more manly than Tim Walz.
That's true.
Seriously. Say what you want. But I think Pete may have a little more T in his body than Tim does. Tim's got more T's in his name, but Pete's got more T in his body. Oh, man. You know that Keatsman's going to have, as he does every day, a great monologue coming up at 10:05 on KCMO. You don't want to miss it. And something tells me, as he teased this morning, he was on last hour talking about the Chiefs' schedule that dropped last night. If you missed that, it will be up on the podcast after the show. Just search for it on Apple or Spotify and then subscribe to the podcast right there. It's going to tie into part of what Quentin Lucas was saying this morning right here on KCMO. And if you missed the mayor, well, I asked him a pointed question. If the Royals stay in Kansas City, Missouri, are we basically down to Washington Square Park as the only site in Kansas City, Missouri that is under consideration? That is the park adjacent, basically due east of Union Station. Is that the place for the Royals in Kansas City, Missouri? The only place that's really on consideration. Here was his answer, including some love for your local shows here on KCMO.
I think so. I mean, if I'm being really honest, yes. I mean, look, if everything collapses and it's a story of, hey, you guys stay at Kauffman Stadium and we do a bunch of area improvements, I love that. And in fact, that's something to the Chiefs that we would look to talk about once they get some more stadium discussions further down the road. But, look, I'm technically agnostic to anything in the city. But that being said, I think there's been the most study on Washington Square Park, renderings, infrastructure, ingress, egress, a lot of work there. And, of course, there's more than ample parking. I think about 18,000 spots within close walking distance, about 40,000 spots even in a broader walking distance in the whole downtown area. So I think that's what you look at. And importantly, for where we are in this chat, and I give props to you and Keatsman because you guys have been more right than you've been wrong in this discussion. We need to narrow down sites. This new thing becomes important every 2 weeks thing is exhausting. I think it has led to some of the, jellyfish-style discussion we've had. I think everybody in this region wants to get this deal done, and then we move on to the next big thing.
Everybody wants to move on. Everybody wants to get this deal done, and he's right about that. But it's going to wait a little longer. Might wait a lot longer. Who knows? Because yesterday the Missouri House and the Missouri Senate basically decided they're done for the year. You heard from both sides, the House and the Senate side this morning. John Patterson, Speaker of the House. Lee Summit guy was on early. And then Mike Searpoy on the Senate side, Jackson County, earlier this hour as well. And they both said that, you know what, it wasn't going to happen. The Chiefs-Royals funding that came to be in the last 48 hours. So now the only hope on that front is to have a special session. John Patterson seemed to believe that maybe this could get done next month in June. Searpoy on the Senate side seemed to believe that we may be looking at September before a potential state funding mechanism comes to fruition from Missouri for the Chiefs and the Royals. What was on the table was basically $20 to $25 million per year per team from the state of Missouri. That obviously was not able to get done. So now you've got this deadline for the Star Bonds coming up next month. The state of Kansas could extend that one more year to June of 26, but we'll just have to wait and see how all of that plays out. But Quentin Lucas saying, hey, you know what? You guys have been right on a lot of your reporting, and that's part of what I posted last night. I got a text from somebody in Kansas City media on Tuesday, and it read, props to you and Keatsman on the stadium coverage and commentary. 810 has barely discussed it up to this point. They've spent more time discussing whether the NBA draft lottery is rigged and interviewed the new starting goalie for Sporting KC. Hope all is well. I'm a sports fan, but interviewing the new starting goalie for Sporting KC?
Nobody cares.
I mean, man, that's a stretch.
I like Sporting KC, but that would bore me as well.
Yeah, I mean, what? I mean, jeez.
I'm a football fan, but yeah.
Yeah, I'll pass on that. And we'll leave you with this. It was 1 year ago today that the course of history changed. 1 year ago today, Wednesday, May 15th, of course, 1 year ago, Joe Biden dropped this video that changed 2024 forever.
Donald Trump lost 2 debates to me in 2020. Since then, he hadn't shown up for debate. Now he's acting like he wants to debate me again. Well, make my day, pal. I'll even do it twice. So let's pick the dates, Donald. I hear you're free on Wednesdays.
Joe Biden challenged Donald Trump to a debate. May 15th of 2024. And that video was 15 seconds. It had about half a dozen upcuts to it, so it wasn't one clean shot. And we talked about it last year. I'm like, this guy couldn't record a 15-second video without multiple upcuts. He's screwed. Trump said, let's do it. They had that debate in June. And you know what? The rest is history, right? It was a complete debacle from there. It led to this amazing moment in that debate, and that was obviously the end of Joe Biden.
I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. But by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
That's the biggest lie. He's a 6 handicap of all.
I was an 8 handicap.
Yeah.
8.
Never.
But I had, how many?
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Hey, let's
not act like children.
President Trump, we're going to turn.
Let's not act like children.
I've seen you swing. You're not a 6. You're not an 8. Come on. Donald, if you carry your bag, I might die by the time I get to the first tee. But if you carry your bag, you're on, man.
Let's not act like children.
I can't believe 2024 actually happened. Like, man, what a year. And now we're reaping all the benefits here in 2025. Have a great day. Keatsman is next.